Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. It's Thursday, 23rd of June. I'm Haggerty 10, Tony Haggerty. You know the drill, Twitter handled a lot. And I'm joined today once again by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. Morning, Sean.
Hello, Tony. How are we?
I'm very well, very well. Now, just do our usual drill and we will big up our sponsors, One Football. Download the One Football app. It's a one-stop football shop for scores, news, lineups, transfer rumours, live streaming, match highlights, and much, much more. You can immerse yourself in the digital football world and have the best digital football experience out there. It's well worth downloading, guys. It's a cracking app. I've downloaded it myself, and so's Sean. It's very informative, cracking app, and the link's in the description. And as you can see, running along the bottom, you can still enjoy a 30-day free trial on us. Just hit the subscribe button, guys, and thank you to those who've already done that. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe for some top quality journalism and some bits from me and Sean as well. Isn't that right, Sean?
Certainly is.
Rab McEwen, good morning from a windy, sunny Wales. Good morning, Rab, and wherever you are. Good morning, Retro Celtic from a hot and sweaty Turkey. Lucky you. If you're on holiday, enjoy. Now, we want some audience participation today, guys, in the comment section.
Yep.
Fire in your Celtic questions in a kind of Q&A style. Morning, Brian, how you doing? Myself and Sean will endeavour to answer any queries or questions that you have on your beloved club. Hi, David, how you doing? Regular contributor David Bradley there. Now, Sean, I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm going to ask you a question. Celtic building from a position of strength from the first time in a long time. Now, all the transfer rumours are bubbling away. We know the names. We can't avoid social media telling us this one and that one signing. But I'm just saying the way things are going. You wrote a newsletter piece talking about the kind of continuation of the culture that the club is now building, and it's hard to keep your eyes off it or take your eyes off it. Sorry. So, is it for the first time in a long time that Celtic are building from a position of strength? They're the champions, they're in the Champions League group stages, and they're now starting to add a wee bit more quality to the quality that was already there and winning the title?
First of all, I've shamelessly put in the comments, the newsletter that you're talking about. There's a sign-up bit at the bottom. You get that in your inbox every day, 4 o'clock now. Either myself or Tony will do a wee topical comment piece on something about Celtic that day, and then it's the list of our pieces on the site and stuff. The questions rolling along the bottom there where the trials usually is for a wee 5 minutes while we talk about it. I think, Tony, I might disagree with the premise. With the exception of last summer, and I think that is a whole case in itself. But I think with the exception of last summer when Ange Postecoglou inherited a shambles with numerous players ready to leave, a morale sapping season just finished, etc., etc. I'd say Celtic for the past decade have, relatively speaking, always been in a position of strength in pre-season as the best team in the country, the most financially capable club in the country, and the most successful side in the country. Now, whether the club always took advantage of that position is another thing, and I suspect that's probably what you're getting at.
Yes. Yes. That's what I'm driving at. I just think there seems to be, they've turned over a new page, Sean. Everyone's on the same page. They're singing from the same hymn sheet. There seems to be this culture where the manager wants to do well and a board that's buying what he's selling and giving them the tools to do the job. Just think there's a sea change, let's put it this way, in the way I think Celtic are going about their business since Ange's come in. And I think most supporters would agree it's pretty fresh and it's exciting. Whereas you've just alluded to there, I don't know if Celtic have gone about their business the right way from positions of strength, have won the title every year in the preceding years. That's all I'm saying. Not criticism.
No, I know.
It's not majorly criticism.
It's your expertise. You asked the good questions, Tony.
Well, I don't know that.
I mean, to answer my own question, I suppose on my account, my own thoughts are that they certainly didn't. They didn't take advantage of it in the way that they probably should have. It is difficult to say that. Anybody that wanted to kind of argue against that would simply point to the trophy cabinet, and I get that. But I still think there's nuances in there. There's context that suggested didn't really take advantage of the position of strength, the unprecedented positions of strength over that decade. A consistent theme was obviously waiting for qualifiers to finish before doing the real business, so to speak. In a way, I would argue that helped sacrifice the ability to make an impact in Europe as a byproduct. On top of that, also perhaps a criticism that could be levied at them is that they didn't have a coherent recruitment strategy. I think that counts against them as well. Actually, I could make the argument that the 2020-21 season, even though we want to forget it, was, you could argue that that was the attempt to build from strength by not selling the big names in pursuit of 10 in a row. So I think I'm right in saying Johnny Hayes and Craig Gordon were the main guys who left that summer. But that said, you could also say it was standing pat because only El Yunusi, who was obviously only on loan, and Turnbull were recruited that summer and succeeded. You had Barkas, Ayete, Duffy, Laxalt, all who didn't. So you could almost argue it wasn't building from strength, it was simply keeping the strength that they had.
Yeah. I just think of the amount of money that, the millions that were squandered by not fully preparing for Champions League tilts. That's all I'm saying, by not gearing yourself up for a shot at, success for Celtic is getting to the Champions League group stages and recouping a lot of cash. So why didn't they go for that each and every time? To try and give themselves the best possible opportunity, to get that cash.
Yeah.
But obviously, the performance this season was enough to win the title and get automatic access to that, which is a boon for Celtic. But I just think there was wasted opportunities, I would say, Sean, during that, you say, unprecedented decade of dominance that they had. That's all I would say.
No, I'd agree with you. I do agree with you.
A shot at anybody in particular. It's just my own particular personal feelings on it, that they could have made a better fist of it, let's put it that way.
Charlie's comment, quite a lengthy comment, hiding half of their faces, Tony, but I think it's a fair comment. And it's that almost that that kind of aspect of playing it maybe a wee bit too safe. Now, I know it is a business, obviously, and it's been largely a well-run business. There's nobody can really levy that at anybody that was in charge. But that is where I would come back to what you said there. That is the kind of overriding aspect of it, is could have made a wee bit. I mean, that newsletter that I was talking about yesterday, right? I've talked about that I did yesterday. It was based largely on Ange Postecoglou's latest kind of venture into the media sphere over in Australia, doing an interview. Part of that, it was an hour and a half long, by the way, but I'm going to just say one wee bit. Part of that was his philosophy of trying to enable players to feel that they can take a risk. Not that they're always going to have to pay off, but they can take a risk. That, you know what it's like, Tony, I've been going on about it. That's his resilience that he means, doing the same thing, trying it, even if it doesn't work the first time, all that kind of thing. You could almost apply that to the way that Celtic didn't go about their business when they had that level of strength. They didn't want to take that extra wee risk just in case it didn't pay off. Now, as I say, the 2020-21 season, was it a risk to keep all the big players when some were wanting away? It probably was, but it maybe wasn't the right kind of risk. But I could argue, I've got to put Charlie's comment back down so you can see everything again. I think that's the difference with this season, though. That's the difference with this year and why it looks so positive. The influence of Ange Postecoglou in getting things done as soon as possible, and it must be said, the way that Michael Nicholson is going about overseeing and supporting that is to both of their credit. Yeah.
And seems to be on a world media tour of Australia. Seems to be speaking to every Australian outlet, doesn't he? And long may it continue, because he's well worth hearing. And as you say, you could listen to the man for hours and hours. An hour and a half's nothing, really, is it? But he just seems to strike the right chord whenever he opens his mouth and makes a public utterance. And
he called himself a storyteller in that interview, Tony.
Well, there you go.
And I mean, your piece with, pardon me, Ryan McGowan, when he spoke specifically about that kind of famous clip of Ange Postecoglou telling them that people that supported them on their journey walk with them out for a big game and all of that kind of thing. He was referencing that kind of stuff where he doesn't want to just continually say, oh, this is my process, please do what I'm asking you, this kind of thing. Because otherwise, at some point, they switch off. They don't want to hear, this is the process, this is what you need to do. They want to know why they need to do it, and a wee bit of, this is the kind of why you need to do it and why you should want to do it, that kind of thing. So it's always worth listening to him. Always worth
I would say in that kind of sense, and we've spoken about phases and developments and rebuilding.
Yeah.
We now need to move away from trust the process, Sean.
Oh, aye.
We need a new terminology. We'll try and come up with that as we go along, but we're past trusting the process. Yes, the manager is trusted, so we're now moving on to the next part of the process,
Aye.
which we will give a name at some point, or we'll throw it open to the commenters to give us.
Sounds like
Give us a new.
my dog's trying to give it a name there, but I don't know what he's saying.
Give us a new moniker.
I agree with you. I think
we've moved on from that
exactly
now. We're moving in a forward direction.
The process is well and truly trusted. I agree with you. That was again in that newsletter. I kind of made the point. Despite the opposition last year, there is literally nobody, and I mean nobody, that doesn't buy into him now. Everybody does.
Pete McGee comes in. Don't forget, bigger and better, Tony. He said, "Yep,
yes, true,
indeed." Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Frank comes in. Basically, this season we need almost 2 squads for both the Scottish Premiership and the Champions League. The way the fixtures come quick and fast, and not forgetting all the hamstring injuries we got with Ange Postecoglou last season. I don't think the manager is forgetting that, and I think that's the kind of premise that he's working on, Sean, isn't it? To have at least 2 players for every position, so that, as he is wont to do, so he can rotate, give players a rest, because they did suffer a lot from injuries to key personnel last season, which we've banged on about and spoken about. So I think if anybody knows that acutely, nobody knows that more acutely than the manager, I would say.
I agree. Like, I'm going to agree with that, especially with the depth stuff.
Depth charts
I've
and all
been
that.
sitting waiting to publish a depth chart. I'm waiting for at least one more signing, and then I'll start doing it. Hi, Frank. What is it with the Celtic Way presenters and barking dogs? What can I say?
Well, to be fair,
the caravan keeps rolling, Tony. That's what they say.
Better with barking dogs than barking patter and barking pods, isn't it? Tony, like your talk. Yes, Kevin, available for the line dancing sessions anytime you want. Yes, indeed.
I thought it was me who was going to get the top comment because you asked about it, Tony. Remember
Indeed, yes. The
stone. You thought it was Kyogo. It's the Stone Roses.
I could only see the top with the black hair.
To be fair, Ian Brown's haircut, or is it John Squires? Ian Brown's haircut here does have a wee bit of the Kyogo about it. But no, I think just as a final thing on that main question that we're taking, I mean, where is it actually? I've got a comment. It was David Gillespie just asking. This is maybe for the Q&A section, but I think it applies to this as well. But do we think the absence of qualifiers really is a good thing? There's obvious benefits, but a bit worried getting into the Champions League ties with no progression and quality of European opposition that we face. I see his point, Tony. And I think, again, that ties into the building from a position of strength stuff from the last few seasons and whether they have or they haven't. I think we both agreed they didn't. But I think having no qualifiers, you could argue both sides. I think, of course, it helps that you don't have qualifiers because it means you're in the group stages, and that helps in terms of attraction and it helps in terms of planning. But conversely, as David's alluded to, there's always been an element to the kind of wait and see where we end up modus operandi that, to me, inherently makes it more likely you won't get to the top table. So the kind of speculate to accumulate, or call it what you will, but that lack of calculated risk at times held the club back from making that leap onto the top European stage, I think it could be argued. So to answer David's question, I would rather be in that position than the qualifiers.
Take that position all day long, automatic group stage qualification, because by the time you're playing automatic group stage matches, you're well into your season and playing highly competitive football. Just the nature of the competition is ratcheted up a notch. But hey, that's why you compete to win your domestic league. That's where you want to be. And if Celtic could bypass and avoid the qualifiers every season, I'd gladly take that and get in the group stages and take your chances. I've said before, you get who you get in the Champions League group stages. You have a rip at it. If it doesn't work, fine. And I think that's the way the manager, based on what you were saying, Sean, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Celtic are going to go in against big guns and not be afraid to make mistakes. And I think that's a style of football that entertains the Celtic supporters, and it's a style of football that they want to see, isn't it?
It is, and I think this comment, people ought to trust their current squad more. We're not going to build an entire new one of proven Champions League players in 2 months. I don't know how many people are asking for that, but one or two that are Champions League ready here or there, I think could make a world of a difference on that level.
I totally agree with that, but I also think that he's building a squad to be competitive in the Champions League, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to play games in the Champions League and say, what to do, Celtic are there. They want. I keep going back to Matt O'Reilly saying they don't want to play in it, they want to win games. That's the mindset that's currently set in with Celtic, and they will bring in better players in the summer to give them a better chance.
Mm-hmm.
I think Celtic will be as highly competitive as possible in the Champions League, depending on who we get. But you got to enjoy it, got to embrace it. The manager most certainly is. It's what he said himself. This is the moments that he loves. These are the games and the times that he thrives on. And I think it's something that he's always wanted to do. He's coveted being with a European team and playing in that competition most of his managerial career. Let the chips fall where they fall, Sean.
That's it. That is it. That is. I hate to just totally agree with you, Tony, but I do. So that's the way I pretty much look at it as well. There's plenty of comments coming in. We will get to. I mean, we've already went 16 minutes. It flies past, Tony, but we'll get to the Q&A as well. I've saved a few of the questions, Tony.
Excellent.
It can only be one to start. Rab McEwen, first question. Will there be smoking confetti coming out Tony's wardrobe as Jota steps out of it to announce his signing?
And there's stars in your eyes.
On the hush, hush, Tony. That's why you're off tomorrow, isn't it? Getting it ready.
Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Jota, one of these ones, yeah. And I'll disappear and come back as a Portuguese winger. Indeed. Someone else commented that it's a wardrobe full of green. I can't actually deny that, to be honest. I think it's mostly, but there you go.
Right, any questions to your fancy there, Tony? There's a few that I've actually put in that aren't actually questions, but I'll still take them as questions.
No, we'll take them. Carry on.
What about this, Tony? Do we need another offensive midfielder after losing Big Tom, as in another attack-minded midfielder?
Listen, I'm of the opinion you can't get enough good players in your team. Defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders, bring them on, Sean. And if you can shoehorn them into your team, so be it. I would like another goal-scoring midfielder. I'm always looking for goal-scoring midfielders, but as you and I both know, they cost. But I wouldn't be averse to having another offensive midfielder after losing Tom Rodgick. But I still say that the priority in that position at the moment is a defensive holding midfielder, somebody with a bit of physical strength, and can play a bit of football as well.
I think, given Matt O'Reilly and David Turnbull are both there, I think you could argue they will be the main attacking creative kind of midfielders out of the three. They might even start together fairly often. I think, given McGregor can shift from the deepest midfielder to one of the eights, you have got quite a lot there with Rio Hatate considered as well. So I would tend to agree with you. I think that someone who can either play alongside McGregor as a double pivot or take that burden on themselves. As I always say, you'll be like, not again. But if they can, it's not even if they can, they must be able to marry the kind of defensive stuff, the physical stuff, the athleticism with decent technical quality, or they'll get lost in the midfield because they'll be expected. When you think about it, they're not just going to be signing for Europe, which is when the defensive aspects will probably come out more.
Yeah,
it'll be for the league. They'll need to play in the league as well. And I think a lot of the time, that deepest line midfielder, and this is why it works so well with McGregor, the responsibility isn't so much defensive as it is taking the ball from defence, trying to get them playing through the thirds, all that kind of stuff. So whoever plays, or whoever is signed, to kind of fill that gap must be able to kind of carry themselves in that way as well.
Yeah. Agree with that.
Retro Celtic, this kind of ties into it. Would Vinicius Souza and Jota make it a perfect transfer window? I'll go first this time. I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect transfer window, but it would certainly be a good one, even just out of the two of them, even if it was just Jota that signed. I think you're laughing.
I always think that managers, it's a great managers speak, they're always two players short, aren't they? Managers.
Yeah.
And I think that's a kind of that. If you're a writer like myself, you're always striving for perfection, which you'll never achieve. So that I think that kind of managers speak, two players short of being a right good team. They always kind of say that. So I think if Souza and Jota would come in like you, I think Celtic supporters would be really happy with that, but they'd also want more. I think Ange would want more. and on that premise, I think not that they would be 2 players short, but it's just a kind of it's kind of stock phrase. I still think that Ange would see himself, short of being where he wants to be, or the ideal kind of. They'll never be the finished article, but they'll
He
strive
mentions
for
that
it.
himself, doesn't he? Not in terms of transfers so much, but in terms of his play and his philosophy, that he knows it's actually unattainable, but that's part of what makes it fun, is to try to get there. So it's almost like that. You never tell your boss you're not busy, that kind of thing.
But it'd be 2 players more. Let's put it that way. So and I think the Celtic supporters would be absolutely delighted if both of them were to come in. I have to say, Retro Celtic, yeah.
So I mean, people ask what's your favourite title. It's the next one, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question, Tony, but I suspect the two of us will be in total harmony with our response to it. Should Celtic concentrate on the league and the Champions League and forget chasing domestic trebles?
Go on then.
No, because why would you? You compete on all fronts as long as you can, as far as you can.
I banged on about that for ages. Why can't Celtic be competitive both domestically and in Europe and win everything domestically and go as far as they can in the Champions League? I see no impediment as to why they can't do that, or at least strive to do that. So there is no priority for Celtic in terms of competitions. You sacrifice nothing, as Patrick McLaughlin says. You go in to compete, to give of your best and win the lot if you can, knowing, as we've just said, that perfection's impossible because the odds are stacked against them winning the Champions League. But if I sit here and say, well, I think Celtic, they go in the group stage is fine, but I want to win the Champions League, Sean. I do. I am the eternal optimist and dreamer. You know what I mean? Some people will say, what's he been on? But if Celtic, every season Celtic enter the Champions League at the group stages, I want to see them win it. I know it's impossible, but you never stop dreaming. And football, as I've always said, is for eternal dreamers and optimists.
No, I knew we would be kind of singing from the same hymn sheet on that one, because remember it was a question at some point, a couple of times actually, on these briefings last season, and I just don't see the logic in prioritising single games, etc., over one that's got a trophy at the end of it. There is obviously a hierarchy of trophies and situations and stuff, but ultimately a trophy is a trophy to me, and you don't build a squad to give up on something from the get-go, basically. So that would be my...
You don't build a squad to be told you can't win something. So I'm always of the feeling that you can win. So, especially Celtic.
This is actually not a question, but Rab's made this point before and can kind of see the point. It kind of ties into that. Thinks another season and then Celtic will try and cause a storm in Europe.
Okay,
I think they'll try this season. I do think they'll still try it this season, but I think Rab's maybe saying another season of learning in Europe, and then next season might be the one that they...
It's entirely possible, but I think he learned a lot from those games in Spain and Germany last season.
Same.
With a team that we would all admit was nowhere near as competitive as where he wanted them to be, but made a fist of it in both of those games against Betis and Leverkusen, and arguably should have taken more than they did, which was nothing, but should have taken
I know.
So
that ties into David Bradley's comment. We need to stop being scared going away, Tony, or record the shock. I actually think last season was one of the seasons they weren't that scared.
I enjoyed watching Celtic away in Europe last season for the first time in a long time. Bodo Glimt game apart, but the Europa League group stages, can't tell me you weren't entertained as a Celtic supporter in every away group game. Now, we can argue the toss about the results, but we were entertained, Sean, and we were cursing and ourselves at the end of it. When was the last time you felt hard done by or robbed, having played really, really well? You go 2-0 up in Betis, Chota's a chance for 3-0. You're thinking, wow, you lose 4-3. You go 2-1 up in Germany against Leverkusen with the second goal, a brilliant counter-attacking Ange ball fit. And you think, wow, we could do this. We could win in Germany and play on a big scalp. So and then obviously you beat Ferencvaros. So I think that the early seeds of that were sown last season with Ange Postecoglou saying, we've nothing to fear here. Go and play our brand of football and see where it takes us. And we came up agonisingly short in a good group that could have, could be a Champions League group. And I take Patrick McLaughlin's point. Yeah, we scored 8 goals away in that group stage. Yeah, and then he's So for every
scored 8 away, lost 9. That is the problem. But
so
as I wrote at the end of that, I think we both agreed. But I certainly wrote my column because I done the last game, the final group game of the Europa League group stages. I still think everything they learned, some of the performances they put in, yes, they get eliminated, but that group was really difficult. And that kind of thing that Patrick's talking about, where I scored 8 goals away, lost 9, that's still a learning thing. There's lessons you can learn from that.
Yeah,
they never get annihilated. I mean, they got beat 4-0, but even in that game, Ange Postecoglou said that was a learning process for him because he saw players still trying to do what he'd asked them to do.
Yeah.
So the whole Europa League campaign, to me, still came out in a net positive in the overarching context of the progression under Ange Postecoglou. It wasn't a net positive in terms of the actual group, because obviously if it was, they would have qualified, and they didn't. The Conference League one was more disappointing because basically Bodo Glimt showed Celtic up. They taught them a lesson on how to upset someone in Europe, basically.
Yep. Agree with that. Yep, totally.
Well, watch this space. Go on your cellar. Any of you two, lads, Sean or Tony, come to Sydney in November. Watch this space. We'll see. We'll see. Frank Brennan, Kyogo spotted on Sean's t-shirt. David Bradley, Sean, do you think you're going to go close to spending 30 million this season? I don't know so much, but then see when you consider everything that goes into wages and stuff, that kind of gets forgotten about when it comes to transfer fees. That actually agents' fees, wages, all of that stuff actually all tallies up quite a lot. And there's actually another question about that, which Tony, you spoke to an agent, more than one agent actually, about loan to buy deals. Brian asking anyone know if contract lengths are decided before or after on these obligations to buy loan deals. I'm right in saying it's after, isn't it? Because it's just the player they negotiate that with. It's not the club. It's simply the transfer fee and whether the club can meet it. Aye.
Yeah. So it's all coming down to the player accepting it at the end of the obligation to buy loan deals. Yeah.
Do you agree with this, Tony? RB Salzburg, Villarreal, and Ajax. Celtic aren't a million miles away.
Told you I'm an eternal optimist, and Jima. Yeah, I can't for the life of me understand why a club like Celtic can't be competitive in Europe. That's always been my mantra. We have to be competitive in Europe, and I think we finally have a manager who sees that as well and wants to unlock the potential that's in Celtic and compete the way RB Salzburg, Villarreal, and Ajax do. He really does want to make inroads and dents in Europe, and I think that's what the Celtic supporters crave as well. Because if you can make inroads in Europe and claim scalps, then domestic dominance follows on from that, doesn't it? Really? Because if you're competing
I think so. Aye.
If you're competing against the best that European football has to offer, then you're obviously going to be lauding it in your own domestic arena too, because you'll be a good team. So I think one follows on from the other, and I think that's what Ange kind of thinks can happen as well, and unlock that potential at Celtic. We'll find out in the fullness of time.
Frank making the point that it was very close against Betis. But I mean,
myself,
I think the Salzburg and Villarreal and Ajax stuff is slightly different in terms of the leagues that these guys play in as well. But I do take the point, especially yours, Tony, that you can only be optimistic about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Probably. I mean, we're pushing half an hour, so last one. I'll throw this directly to you, Tony. I'm not actually sure myself. Rob McEwen, if you could sign one player from the Scottish Premiership, who would it be? Dream but realistic. I think, apart from unless it was a Rangers player, I think every player in the Premiership is a realistic possibility for Celtic. But I would maybe have said Calvin Ramsey before he left. But to be honest, I'm not sure that there's a standout candidate. I know some people would maybe say Lewis Ferguson. I think he's a really good player. I do think some people get lost in the fact that he takes penalties, so his stats are inflated in that sense, and what he offers attacking wise.
I think people would be drawn to maybe Lewis Ferguson, somebody like that. But as you say, I guess we're taking Rangers players out of the equation, are we?
But you don't need to take them out of the equation. Is there anyone you would take? I mean, there's a comment here saying Ryan Kent. But...
I did that, and I know he's not a Ross County player. He was on loan, but I did like the look of Regan Charles Cook.
Was it not Hungbo that was on loan, and Charles Cook's away to a Belgian side? I think.
Is that right? Okay.
I think so. Or was he just on loan? He might have been on loan, but regardless, anyway, that would count. That would count if you wanted to.
I like the look of him when he made a big difference, and I think everybody saw what he was capable of the day they drew 3 each with Rangers, and I looked at him and I thought, not so much as a signing per se, but I looked at him and thought he was someone who could do a job for Celtic. Let's put it that way.
Aye. No, I'm sure he was permanent up at Ross County. I'm sure he was there before I came down the road. But
somebody said they would take Calvin Bassett.
But Tim and on, we already signed him. Seagrist.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I mean that.
Max Stark saying we'd take Bassett. To be fair, is that for 25 million, Max? I don't know. Kennedy, Jake Doyle Hayes. I don't know. Dylan Levitt. He did impress a lot of people, David. I see that. Yeah. Martin Boyle obviously left. I actually did when he was getting linked with Celtic. Remember, I did a kind of would it make sense for him to go to Celtic?
Talking about
slightly came out on the side that probably it wouldn't. But there's some really good players in the Premiership, to be fair.
No, and I think the manager will be all over that as well, because he has his nose everywhere, doesn't he, and his ear to the ground everywhere. And I think if he were going to sign a Scottish player, then I'm sure, or a player from a Scottish club, I'm sure Celtic would have made their moves or overtures by now, and you would have heard about it. So that's just.
As Rab says, it was a hypothetical, hypothetical question. But anyway, before we wrap up, it was good doing a wee Q&A. I think we should do them more often, Tony, especially when we say it at the start and there's quite a lot sitting.
Yeah, of course.
It's always good to get you involved, guys.
We love the engagement. It's brilliant, and we love the Mickey taking as well. We don't take it too seriously. We're up for a good laugh, you know that, guys, and it's.
We're going to need to start paying your wardrobe just for the appearance fee.
It's always enjoyable. I know, yeah. In fact, I might start. I might move it, say that someone's stolen it, and start issuing ransom demands.
Sean Malloy pointing out the Conor Barron interest. Yeah.
Does
it say? It might say something that none of us say to him there. I don't know, but and the reports from up north, I think it was the Press and Journals last night, said that Aberdeen are looking to get him on another new contract. So. We'll see what happens there. There's interest apparently from Serie A as well as potentially Celtic and other teams. But just before we go, I wanted to draw your attention to what's on the website today. I've put a link in the comments here. We have an excellent, well-written feature by columnist Kevin McKenna, which is on this week's Celtic Foundation's showcasing event. Now, Kevin was really touched by the event, and it really will. If you read it, it will drive home the link that the club still retains with, but you can only put it, Brother Walfred's founding principles. It's well worth the read. We commend them for their work. It's also not behind the paywall given the subject matter, but obviously the free trial is still going anyway for anyone that's interested in getting full access to everything we do after reading Kevin's piece.
Yep, and as I say, we just highlight you to 30-day free trial. Hit the subscribe button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. John Coyle's just came up with a solution there, Sean. I should sell advertising on the wardrobe.
Well, yeah, that's maybe a wee bit. That's a wee bit capitalist there for me. But
I don't think that's going with the Celtic kind of foundation. Which, you know what I mean? Unless I sold it and I gave it to charity, then that would be different, wouldn't it, Sean?
Yes, it would be. Yep.
Now, for those of you that are asking me to open it, I told you I'm old-fashioned. I keep closing it. You don't walk into a scene from Narnia or Mr. Ben or anything like that. You know, it's not that kind of Fran and Anna hiding in the water. There you go. I'll open it one day. There you go, guys. I promise. I don't know when. I'll maybe leave that up to Sean. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide when I should open it. Maybe open it when Celtic win for the first time away in the Champions League under Ange, Sean. Shall we say that?
Somebody will be saving that comment.
Somebody will be saving that comment. Yep, you can save it. Yep, we'll do that, and I'll open it, and you can see what's in the wardrobe. Just a sea of green clothes and other coloured clothes, Sean. But hey, there you go. We thank you.
Yep.
Sponsors One Football. Download the One Football app, guys. Links in the description. You'll see it there. But yeah, hit that subscribe button. You can enjoy the pods like this. Enjoyed that today, Sean. Enjoyed your contribution. Always first class. Guys, thanks for the questions. Sean's right. We should really do it more. Have a cracking Thursday. And I'm on day off tomorrow. So it'll be Sean and Alison who you'll see tomorrow. But we shall reconvene on Friday. Monday. I'll get that right.
You'll reconvene on Monday. I'll reconvene same time tomorrow. But
Frank Brennan will hold you to that, Tony Haggerty. Yes, indeed, you can hold me to that. We'll throw the wardrobe doors open when Celtic win away in the Champions League. Mark that up, guys. There you go. Have a cracking day. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Tony.